Hey everybody, welcome back to Critically Random, the stuff where we just talk about whatever is on our mind. So I'm Screen Direct.
And I'm Hawkflame.
And welcome to our Christmas special episode, I guess.
Well, it's that time of the year, isn't it? So Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, Happy whatever. I don't, if that offends you, I don't care.
Yeah, happy holidays, whatever it is you celebrate.
Mm-hmm. And so I've been. How have you been, Screen Direct?
I've been okay. You know, it's just it's been a hectic time of the year. You know.
Yeah, I can imagine. Same here. I just did some last minute Christmas shopping. I got my niece a BB-8. I've been pulling up like you could see it right now. I don't know why, but I got my niece a remote control BB-8. Star Wars is this is the Force Awakens version, not the Last Jedi. But more about that in the future, and we'll talk about some. I think it's interesting how Star Wars has become much more female oriented.
Oh yeah. We gotta have a say about that. And by the way, I bought my mom a Star Wars related Christmas present as well. Just got it today because I couldn't figure out what else to get my mom. Like I wanted to get her a gift card, but she doesn't really go to most of those restaurants that are being offered. So I ended up getting her a pork plushie.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And
so we'll get on to some of the shows that we've been watching recently. Anything you care to mention?
Yeah. Sorry, let me just refer to some of the many shows I'm watching right now. Okay, here it is. So one of the shows I definitely want to talk about that I'm watching right now is Netflix Erased.
And so that's interesting because I've not watched that yet, but I watched the anime. I'm a big fan of the anime, and so I guess I want to sort of give a brief rundown of what you think about that so far.
Yeah. So I've seen the first 4 or 5 episodes as of this recording. Now, at first, what I was afraid of was going into this, because I did watch the anime too. Was this going to be a carbon copy of the anime series? Now, it feels that way in the first 2 episodes. So the show is not bad. I guess this is the only slight downside going into the show. The first 2 episodes feels almost exactly the same as the anime with very little differences. I did notice that the pacing was a little different, like certain scenes were cut out. But I don't think it was really until episode 3 that I had noticed that they had actually made a significant jump within the timeline of the events happening in the series compared to the anime. So I don't really want to give anything away because, obviously I just want you guys to see the show and enjoy it yourselves. Mm-hmm. But the pacing of the show, of the next Netflix version, does turn out differently because they do jump ahead from what I noticed in certain events that took at least 6 episodes in the anime just to cover. And I'm only on episode 5 or 6 now. I can't remember, but 5 or 6, and it's already. This is a 12-episode show too, and so I see a significant portion was already cut out from what they showed in the anime. So that means that they are going to start showing some different stuff in this version that we didn't see in the anime.
Because that's interesting. Because one of the things I like the anime, but one of the things I've always noticed is that the ending felt a little now without spoiling anything. It felt like it was different from the rest of the show.
Sure. Yeah.
So my concern is so my hope was that it would, while it wasn't a bad ending, I don't think a lot of people didn't like it, but I didn't mind it. But I want something that I would have liked to see something that's feels more consistent, and it feels more. But it feels like what you're saying is that even though obviously the ending's gotta be different. Because I think that it was more of an adaptation of the manga, but it feels like from what you're saying is that there's going to be a lot of differences. It feels like they're setting for a lot of differences.
I don't think there's going to be really. I don't want to say a lot. Well, yeah, there is going to be some differences, but I think it's going to be differences that are going to add to the story that we didn't see in the anime, because it is all, the anime and this series is based off a manga. So originally this was a manga. Now we didn't even really explain what Erased was for.
Yeah.
Which is actually funny because we did a review like about 3 months ago of the anime on our podcast. But
Sorry, give it a quick rundown.
Yeah. So Erased is it's a mystery thriller, I'd say, that involves time travel. And it involves a mystery murder.
Well, it's not really a spoiler because this is going to happen in the first episode. I don't really consider it a spoiler, but this guy has the ability to sort of backtrack, like kind of rewind in life after certain events happen.
Yeah, so that's not really a true spoiler. Yeah, I mean, for some reason I was hesitating whether I should say there's a killer in the show, but that's also not really a spoiler because it's the basic plot. Mm. So it's a mystery. There's a mystery murder kind of whodunit situation.
And now, without any kind of spoilers at all, do you suspect that the killer in the in this live action version is the same as the killer in the anime version?
Absolutely. I think it's the same person, and if anything, my prediction is I think that what they're gonna show more in the live action show that I'm hoping they show, since the pacing I noticed changed a bit, is I'm hoping they'll show more stuff about him that we didn't see in the anime.
Okay, interesting. And so now I'm going to go into a little bit more of the shows that I've been watching, and one particular one that I've been really enthusiastic about is really not technically it's not one show, but it's actually across 4 shows. It's the CW crossover event of the season where there was the Arrow and Flash and Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow. It's called Crisis on Earth X, and I don't know if you're familiar with the previous crossover. Have you seen the last one? Season? And
yeah. It
wasn't that good because it felt like so disjointed, and the Arrow episode was a complete waste of time. This one felt like a complete story. This one felt like a complete 4-part story. It's even being sold as a 4-part story rather than something is across like 3 different. It doesn't even feel like it's across 4 different shows. It's just like okay, part 1 happens to be in the Supergirl time slot, part 2 happens to be in the Arrow time slot, and so forth. And so it's basically about how in this version, again, not a spoiler, happened in the first scene, like basically because in the CW DC universe, there's like a multiverse of different Earths, and basically in this one involves a multiverse where everyone was taken where the Nazis won World War II, and they want to not only conquer their Earth, they want to conquer other Earths, and that means that all the superheroes are now are now Nazis too. Like you have a Nazi Arrow, you have a Nazi Supergirl, and and you have somehow you have and you have their own version of the Flash too, and it's like so they're kind of coming over while. And of course, they're disrupting something big. They're disrupting the wedding of Barry Allen and Iris West. And again, without getting any kind of crazy spoilers, it really, really works as a whole piece. I was telling everyone here that this was really what Justice League should have been. I liked Justice League. I thought it was entertaining for what it was. But now watching this, it's like I feel like I got what I'm missing, because this felt like the Avengers in a sense, but with even more characters.
Now you're really making me want to see it.
This felt kind of like the Avengers with even more characters. And there's some shots in there with some of the fight scenes where it's kind of crazy, where we see everyone doing all this crazy stuff in like one continuous shot, like all of them kind of showing off their abilities.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
And I'm thinking about this and watching this, and it's like they're doing this with aside from the Flash, who was kind of on who was on the first team in Justice League, he was on the A team in Justice League. These are basically maybe Supergirl and Arrow are B-list characters. Everyone else is like a C or D-list superhero in the DC universe, and they look so cool. Like I didn't care about I really care that much about Firestorm for this. I care about Firestorm now, And so they're fighting off the Nazis, and it's a 4-part thing, and I love the fact that it involves all 4 shows really well. Another thing I didn't like about the last one, if you've seen the last one, Supergirl is almost like an afterthought. She had very little to do with the actual plot there. No, Supergirl's actually involved with the main story here. And not only that, they actually bring other Supergirl characters into the story. So, like I said, it's really cool. There's a lot of really shout-outs and winks to the fans. It's kind of it's pretty spectacular seeing what I saw there. There are a lot of things that if I could really boil down what my feeling was about it, it's like I was giddy while I was watching it, and then afterwards, I was I thought about things, and a lot of that doesn't make sense. There are some things that don't, that it's when you think about certain plot points, it's okay, how does that work out again? But I didn't care while I was watching it. I really didn't care when I was watching it. So I had a blast. I recommend everyone, even if you're not caught up with the shows. That's another thing, because it doesn't really, aside from a few lines about some certain events in Supergirl's life in season 3, it doesn't really spoil anything. I mean, you figure, the fact that Barry and Iris are getting married, that's, you kind of figure that from a while ago. So that's my take on that big 4-part event. I've watched a few other things. That's the one I'm the most passionate about right now.
Cool. Yeah, now you're definitely making me want to see it that much more. I got to make some time to see that 4-part crossover.
Like I said, it doesn't. There's plot things that don't make sense. But if you just kind of roll with it.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of this stuff you kind of have to roll with. So on a related show that I've been watching, I have been watching The Flash this season. Don't really have too much to say of it at this moment. I mean, other than, I think the last episode I saw was the reveal of the main villain in the show. So I thought that is making this season more interesting now. I still have to kind of wait and see. I'm not caught up. I didn't see whatever the last episode was.
I think there's been after I saw the villain reveal. After that was the 4-parter, and then I think there's been 1 or 2 episodes after that, which I haven't seen either.
Yeah, so there's probably been 1 or 2 episodes since then, and at the time of this recording, it's probably the mid-season finale was most likely either this week or it was already last week.
I believe it already happened.
Yeah, it had to have already happened, unless it's this week at the time of this recording. I don't really know, but again, don't have much to say about Flash right now, other than the reveal of the villain is now has now brought me back into this season, getting more intrigued with it. I've been watching The Gifted. So for a comic book related show that is actually its own spin-off of the X-Men universe, the X-Men movie universe, I should say, where it's actually a parallel universe of the X-Men movies. I'm really, really enjoying it. Also not completely caught up with that either, but everything I've watched up until what I have seen, I think is really good. I like how it's showing all these original mutants. Some original, and then some have been plucked from X Factor or X Force and whatever. So the stories are good and compelling. The characters are compelling. Even the action scenes in the show are really good. So yeah, for a first season show, I mean, I'm having a blast with this.
Interesting. So it's not. So it is definitely So is it connected to the movies?
They're just calling it a parallel universe, so it's like the X-Men and the Brotherhood did exist where they are, but for some reason they're missing, which we don't know why. Not yet.
Okay, and also, it's not a topic I necessarily thought we were going to cover, but since you mentioned the X-Men, there's been some big news recently about the possibility involving the X-Men, because there's now Fox has been bought out.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that, yeah. So recently Disney bought out Fox, from what I'm hearing, and apparently the X-Men movies are now going to go back to the MCU.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I like the X-Men movies. Overall there have been some bad ones, but I think overall they're pretty good.
Yeah.
And and part of me is excited to see these characters back in the Marvel universe. But there is so much there's so much baggage with those movies. Like how do you merge that baggage into the MCU?
Yeah, there's definitely going to be issues, because even Fox has pretty much confessed they don't care for the continuity of those movies, not that much. And it could be argued with Logan, like, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not even sure how closely the Logan movie follows the continuity.
So
I think it follows it close enough, but you could still notice little things that are shaky.
Yeah, so I mean, the question is, like, for instance, the next movie they're gonna do, other than Deadpool 2, which I'm very excited for.
Mm-hmm.
I think Deadpool 2 could I think that would be. You could deal with the MCU merger in, like, Deadpool 2, because you can have, like, jokes about the MCU and something like that. But, like,
yeah, I'm not afraid for Deadpool. Deadpool 2, mostly because it's. I'm pretty sure by now it's already been shot and being edited, because it's coming out next summer. Yeah. I'm more concerned right now for X-Men.
Dark Phoenix.
Phoenix. Yeah, I'm more concerned for that.
Is that? Because honestly, the way I hope, even though, like, I know a lot of people are excited for the possibility of them being all in one universe, I kind of hope that they're a parallel universe. And if they want to really cross them over, you had to do like a crisis, like what they do to Crisis on Earth X. Kind of have a parallel Earths, like meet, something like that. But I think also what's kind of left unsaid in a lot of these discussions that I'm more excited about is the fact that also Marvel now gets back Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something they could very easily slip into Avengers.
Yeah, true. I guess we'll see. We'll keep an eye on the future of Fox's properties that has gone back to Disney and the MCU. We'll keep an eye on it. Okay. But I just figure, I guess, one more show that both me and Hawk Flame could talk about that we've both been watching. Well, he finished it sooner than I did. Is Recreators. Mm-hmm. So I just finished episode 10.
So if you want to talk about, let's say, we should like sort of lay out what the idea behind this.
Idea,
right?
Yeah.
Basically, it's that that's all of a sudden.
And by the way, this is an anime. Just to clarify.
Yeah. All of a sudden, basically, all these fictional characters from popular anime, popular manga, light novels, the video games, and so forth, start basically entering into the real world. And so, in that sense, you have, and they're all kind of the XPs of different characters or different character types that you're already familiar with, like the main characters. The main girl is basically from what's her name from Sword Art Online.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one who's a magical, sort of all-knowing magic, like white mage of sorts. She's basically an NPC, like an important NPC from a JRPG.
Mm-hmm.
The other character was like you have a magical girl character. You have a characters from a world that's somewhat more like a berserk, and so all coming into this into the quote-unquote real world, and they're trying to figure out why. And then there's someone who's bringing them there. There's this girl in like a military uniform.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you know how much you know about her yet.
Still learning.
Did you find out who created her?
It seems to me that the one boy, minor spoiler, but I won't specify, but he knows who I was talking about, the one boy, so it seems to be him, but I'm still kind of uncertain.
So I don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty of the plot, but I like this show. I like. The plot's not great, especially the second half. But I like the ideas. I like the idea that the reason why these characters are coming into the real world, other than not any other characters, because these are the ones that have been accepted by the fandom. These are the ones who are sort of like who. Because you say how the character writes itself, or the fans, or it's all or the fans are the one that really made this character like alive, brought this character to life, and that's that literally. There's something about these characters that caught on with people that makes them special, and you kind of see that, and you see that these are unique and likable characters. If they weren't, and it kind of makes sense because some of the characters that are based at least in the main girl, the character she's based on is extremely popular.
Sword Art Online.
Yeah, what's her name from Sword Art Online?
Yeah, her character's name is Silesia, which I was able to refresh my memory because I watched episodes recently.
But yeah, and as much as neither of us can figure out why people like Sword Art Online that much, it is very popular.
Yeah, well, it's like it was up until the release of SAO. There was only, from what I understand, only one other MMO type anime that ever did get released before that, and that was Dot Hack, and that was nowhere near as huge as SAO. Because the Sword Art Online, I think it's more like it was a much more action adventure oriented show.
Yeah. Not to derail too much, but Dot Hack was also much more of a multimedia thing. It wasn't just an anime; it was also an actual video game.
And it was an actual video game that had.
That was just as big. I don't know which came first. That they were that intricately tied.
I'm thinking the video games. Don't quote me, but I think it was the games first, then the anime. But we don't want to get too into that.
But anyway, they're based on these really popular characters. They come.
One is a magical girl, so that's obviously based off Madoka Magica.
And it's based on sort of the trope that Madoka Magica is skewering.
One of the characters, and I won't say which, but even one of them is based off someone's fan doujin creation online, which I found pretty interesting. So not all of these characters are based off professional works, which since these are Japanese properties, the professional works would be manga, anime, and games.
Mm-hmm. So that was a kind of interesting idea. That again, there's the idea that there's something about these characters that inspires something in people that brings them to life. And that's kind of a cool idea, and it explores ideas of things like, what's it like to meet the guy who created you, the guy who created your world, and he's just a dude who's trying to make rent.
And then what would it be like if that creator makes an attempt to modify something about that character, like whether it be that character's design or his or her history, something about their world, just so it can presently affect them now.
And they're very specific about like the rules with that, because they can't just. It's not like the mangaka can just like draw a picture and it becomes real.
Yeah.
Like it has to be, basically it has to be like put out in the public sphere in some way. And
yeah, which I finally saw the episode where that was done successfully.
Without getting into major spoilers, basically, there was something that happens by a tweet.
Yeah.
So like he puts out this idea by a tweet, and because it catches on because basically it goes viral, then it becomes real.
I remember one of the things that you kept saying as you were watching the show, and it didn't really catch on to me as much yet. Like, it did a little, but much more so now that I'm further into the show, is that you were saying a lot how meta you found the show. And I think that's a pretty good point to be made, because I noticed with a lot of the dialogue between these characters from anime and games that have been pulled into our world, interacting with the real people that are responsible for them, the way they're having talking to them, some of these characters, some of these conversations that are being carried out, gets extremely meta of how they're comparing when the character is comparing their previous circumstances in their world to the circumstances of the human who may or may not have created them in their own world.
Yeah, and it gets kind of crazy like that. And this is what I speculated that it will be like the final shot. This is not necessarily a spoiler. This is just what I was thinking a few episodes in. Like, that could be like, how cool would it be if the final shot was not even anime? It was just like a live action footage of them drawing the characters.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
It's like, so them drawing not just drawing the character, but drawing like the real world, the quote unquote real world characters in the anime.
That would be like a moment from the Lego movie.
Like you're drawing the one the create like the animator is drawing one of the creators of the manga in the anime.
Oh my god. That's almost like in the Lego movie when they actually showed the real world in that film, but that's a corny comparison to make. But
like I said, that's just a speculative thought I had in a few episodes in. Once I got a sense of what the show would be like, and so yeah, it's super interesting because it talks about these ideas about creation and the importance of like storytelling and it's like because I think you've gotten to this point so far where we have the character was more of a brutal, like hellish world. Like she, basically her world is a living hell, and it's like, and I think you got to the point where she does, correct me if I'm don't go out on a limb here, because I don't remember the exact episode exactly, but like, she does confront her creator.
Which character?
The character, Alisteria, the one with like the big ass sword. Like, who basically she's from the world of like Berserk.
Right, yeah.
And so
I'm having a hard time, honestly. Who's her creator? I'm having a hard time.
But I think there is some point where she basically because it's not again, even if you don't know, this is not a major spoiler because it's like one scene. Like, well, she actually confronts her creator and is like, "You're the one who made my world a living hell."
I don't think I've seen that yet, but I could picture that happening.
So I apologize for spoilers, but I thought it happened in the first 10 episodes. But so there are characters who are sort of dealing with their own more, basically dealing with like the metaphysics of their own world, of their own mortality, their own existence.
Yeah.
In that sense, like.
They go into a lot of philosophy throughout the show, once again, where it gets kind of meta, where I noticed a lot with the one character, I think her name is Meteora, who's from a video game, and, she's using these examples of, how she's had to survive in her world, and uses it to exemplify how the people have what they need to do now in these situations and to survive in these scenarios. And
I think it's very interesting because she's a very detached character, which makes sense because she's not even a main character in her own game. She's an NPC. She's only there she's literally only there as an observer in the game too.
Gotcha.
So again, I don't want So again, I don't want to get too much into because if we talk too much more about this, I'm going to spoil them about something inadvertently, like I sort of accidentally did. So bottom line is, this is a really interesting show. If you like exploring the ideas of creation, about the creative process, about what it means to be, about like the importance of fiction and of story, I think you should check this out.
There is a platform, I forget what it's called, that you can watch Recreators. You know it better than me.
It's on Amazon Prime.
It is on there. Okay,
Yeah,
so for
that's
our
what it
listeners
was.
out there, that's where you could catch it on, where you could watch it. You can find it on Amazon Prime, Recreators. Check it out.
And so I guess we're gonna move on to basically our main theme.
Yes. So now, now we want to give our reviews and thoughts of Star Wars: The Last
Star
Jedi,
Wars: The Last Jedi, like
the most anticipated movie of the year.
and basically the one that half the people hate right now.
Sadly, is the most divided Star Wars movie since I think Episode 2.
Kind of insane, but the audience. I just read this earlier that said the audience score for Last Jedi is the lowest of any Star Wars movie.
Which is so sad. So sad.
But also it's another interesting twist about this. There was some evidence to suggest that there were bots that drove that to some degree.
Oh, really? Wow.
But-
I did not know that.
Yeah. But anyway, so our thoughts. You want to get started?
Sure. So, okay, so this will be our non-spoiler section.
So yeah, we're gonna go into non-spoilers for a few minutes, and then we'll tell you when it got be spoiling things.
Yeah. Yeah, so there really wasn't a whole lot about this movie that I didn't dislike. Most of this movie I liked. So it's weird because I feel like I'm in the minority where I actually say I genuinely enjoyed this movie for the most part without having too many problems with it.
I think yeah.
A lot of people seem to have problems with it.
I don't know if you're in the minority. I should think that the people who disagree with you are extremely loud. And I think there are a lot of them, but I don't think that they're the majority.
This is true. So I'm in the other. I'm on the other side. It seems like there's a 50-50. I'm on that other side.
And as far as who I am, I didn't. I'm not as fervent about it as my partner here is, but I liked it. There are certain things I could pick out as flaws, and I can see why people hated it. But again, also generally speaking, I'm on the positive side. If I would give it like a number, I would say like my feelings about it like a 7 out of 10.
To go into some specifics of why I like this movie, I mean I really like the script writing. I mean some of the choices. Well, you know what? I'll take that back. I don't have a problem with really any of the choices except for the Canto Bite scenes. That was when they're on the casino planet. That was really probably the weakest part of this entire movie that I could have done without. But other than that, I mean, some of the scenes it could have been fleshed out more, particularly the island scenes with Luke and Rey. Some of those scenes we could have seen more of. It could have been fleshed out just a little bit more. But yeah, I mean the acting was great all around.
Yeah, I have to agree. So
Especially from Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. The action scenes were, I thought were outstanding. A lot better than Force Awakens. Sorry to you Force Awakens fans. I don't dislike Force Awakens, but one of the things that I thought was a lot weaker in that movie was, I honestly thought most of the action scenes were kind of uninspired or just boring, really. I mean, they were nice to look at, but I thought they were mostly kind of boring. The action scenes, like the spectacle in this movie, were just breathtaking, one after the next one.
there are some really cool things with with the final battle. I thought that visually was stunning. And anything with the Falcon was really great. So I thought that the action was, I have to agree, the action was pretty top notch. So as overall, unlike unlike my partner here, I do have some gripes with it. Like I said, I thought it was a little long. Like there were a couple of points where I felt like, okay, this is the ending. Oh no, there's this other scene that was in the trailer that's not there yet. So it was another half hour. And there are other, so I felt like it could have ended at basically you could have cut off the. As much as I like the final scene, it felt like the 30 minutes before it could have also ended there too. And it felt like there are some points where I wasn't necessarily bored, but I was like wondering, okay, when is this gonna wrap up soon? So so I'm not a big fan of that. I actually one of the few people who didn't mind the casino scenes, because people talk about how it kind of went nowhere, as meandering, and just drew things out. I like world building. I like establishing new things and like sort of seeing more of the Star Wars world. And I like and going down that kind of adventure like that, even that kind of detour made it feel bigger, made it feel more epic, and I really like that. I like that. I like when they go like to a bazillion different planets. You know, it makes the story feel like a lot bigger and more important. I have to agree that the acting was really strong. I think that the two standouts for me were Mark Hamill. I think this is, not much to compare it with live action wise. I mean, he's a great voice actor, but like, I know it's not a lot to compare with live action wise, but I think that this was his best performance that I've seen in live action.
Yeah, I think so too.
Even better than like what he was in, because let's be honest, he was pretty stiff in the original Star Wars. In episode 4, he was kind of stiff.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So because he was like a new up and coming actor.
Yeah. And so I felt like he was better here, and there are a few other there's a few other things I've seen him in live action, but this is definitely a standout performance of his, because he's very old, he's very weird, and it felt. He
felt kind of like Yoda.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, even like. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to get that off my chest. And even when you see a side-by-side picture of like a headshot of him and Yoda, you could even notice, like, I'm not even kidding you, like in a side-by-side comparison, his facial features look a lot like Yoda now.
Interesting. Never thought about that.
At least in the movie, like the way they did the makeup on his face.
Because the comparison I was always thinking of obviously was Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's what I was thinking of.
And honestly, even without, I don't even think they put that much makeup on him to begin with. I think that was all mostly just he grew out his own facial hair.
Yeah, I think that was his actual. That was his actual beard.
Yeah, so his facial bone structure, oddly enough, if you look at that one image, it's like a meme. I think he looks more like Yoda. I'm not even kidding you.
Interesting. Never thought about that. But I also like some of the idea. I like the okay, I want to get too specific. I like the performance. I also thought that Mark Hamill's great. I thought that Adam Driver as Kylo Ren I think he played a lot of different emotions really well. I think I like that. That's the character that I think that's the most interesting character in this one. And I think he played it really well.
Yeah, Adam Driver as Kylo Ren, I feel like they finally gave him some justice that he sorely deserved in The Last Jedi that was sorely missing in The Force Awakens. In Force Awakens, I'm sorry, man. To me, he was like a cartoon. And that's not his fault. The way they wrote him, he was like a cartoon.
And if you want to give a perfect example, you have an example of him having a template. Both movies have an example of him breaking stuff out of anger. The first one, it was played for laughs. It was basically going to the computer, like swiping at it with the computer. And it was funny, but it was it did work in terms of the humor, but it was played for laughs. It was it played as a kind of a petulant sort of child kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was another scene of him getting pissed off like that, and there was real gravitas and breaking something. There was real gravitas to that scene. There's actually a lot of power to that, and I thought that's to the direction, that's to the acting. I thought I really bought this guy is this guy has a lot of emotions going beyond that, sort of behind those eyes.
They strengthened his character too with the fact that they connected him much more to Rey as well in this movie. So even the actress plays Rey, I'm forgetting her name right now, even she got the benefit for getting her character strengthened because she had more to do with Kylo Ren this time.
That relationship was really interesting. I felt like in some ways those characters are more similar than different in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Not getting into spoilers, but yeah, I'll also reiterate, the action was solid. I thought I did like the final scene as much as I thought it was felt like kind of unnecessary. It did look really, really cool. I thought there's some the space battles as usual. Star Wars were top notch. I did like that. I like Poe. He was a little bit different of character than Han Solo. That's why I feel.
I like how they used Poe in this movie. Yeah, I liked how they used him in this movie a lot more than in The Force Awakens.
Because originally in The Force Awakens, he was supposed to die after that first scene, as originally written.
Yeah, I found that out too.
So then they kind of brought him back at the last minute because I guess they liked the character. But yeah, I like he got more of a sense of of who the character is, and my fear was that he was just gonna be another Han Solo, and he's not, because he's actually, even though he's a cocky sort of fly by the seat of his pants pilot, he's much less of a rogue. He's more like. He's not that smooth ladies man like Han Solo was in a sense. He's not like that. Like he's not that sort of bad guy that you want to love.
Yeah.
He's a little different. He's more of a cocky pilot, but and I thought that was really cool, and I really liked the way that he was portrayed. So we basically wrapped up sort of our general ideas, non-spoiler things that we liked or did.
And I just want to give quick shout outs to the soundtrack in this movie. I thought was a lot better than Force Awakens as well. Force Awakens, I will say, it was a better paced movie. It was more evenly paced than The Last Jedi. So unfortunately, The Last Jedi does suffer some pacing issues from what I saw, which is probably the weakest part in this entire film, what I think. The directing from Rian Johnson, I mean, what could I say? This guy is just he's a new modern, he's a new contemporary genius from what I'm seeing from what he's doing and what he's done with The Last Jedi. I mean, he's to me, he's reinvented Star Wars essentially.
As far as I want to get more into the details of what I think of the directing, I think that overall did a solid job. But like that kind of thing, I think I need to watch a second time to get a real sense of that, about what specifically he brought. Because there's some things ideas that he brought to the table that are really cool that I'll go into in the spoiler section. But as far as sort of his handling of the directing, I liked it. I just wanted to elaborate more on it. I think I need to watch it a second time.
Yeah, I'll be seeing this a second time soon myself. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So with that being said, that wraps up our non-spoiler section. So for those of you who did see the movie, stick around. Now we're gonna go into our spoiler review.
Or if you didn't watch it and you don't mind being spoiled, stick around too.
Okay then. Okay.
So as we said before, this is a really we gotta have to talk about the elephant in the room, how much a lot of people hate this movie.
Yeah, or at least, what they hate / don't appreciate. And to me, I think it's more like a lot of these fans. I'm hoping that with time it turns into just things that they are noticing themselves. They are blowing out of proportion, and I can't acknowledge there are certain things that they are not appreciating that the movie didn't do, but as a whole they're missing the point of what what the movie was trying to really go for with some of these complaints that I've seen has been taken upon. So start us off, Hawk Flame.
So a few things. Okay, so there's I think like a half dozen or so that are the really common ones. The big one is one of the big ones is the treatment of Luke Skywalker.
That's a huge one.
Because a lot of people say that Luke would not have done what he did. Luke would not have gone into exile like this and sort of give up on people. And Luke especially wouldn't have hesitated about the idea of possibly killing Ben Solo in his sleep.
And you know what? Okay, that being said, I haven't looked at these like subreddits or these message boards that people are saying that, but I have been hearing that through YouTubers who have also raised that same complaint about the handling of Luke. Personally, I disagree with this notion. I fully 100% disagree, because I think that one of the geniosity choices that Rian Johnson has made here is that he took the legend of Luke Skywalker, and even Luke freaking says it in the friggin' movie himself. It's as if people aren't paying attention to what's right in front of them, because they have such a how can we call like they're hanging on so tightly to their nostalgic views of Star Wars and Luke that they can't even. They're not even noticing when Luke himself is saying on screen about how he doesn't want to be known anymore as the legend of Luke Skywalker. So what Rian Johnson basically did is he took the legend of Luke Skywalker and brought him down onto a human level. So, in other words, he humanized him.
Another thing, people are blowing out of proportions, that he didn't actually really raise his lightsaber against it. He wasn't. If you watch the scene, if you watch him, he was never actually gonna do it.
He was never actually gonna do it. He just thought about it.
He just thought about it. He was never actually gonna, and that's not like. Because I always felt like Luke has never been purely light side. Really, he's always been a little gray. Going back to Empire Strikes Back, like Yoda said Luke's not ready. Luke is too impatient, too emotional. He's not ready to be trained. And so because Yoda saw that part in him.
If you even pay attention to like the look in his eyes in Return of the Jedi, when he first enters Jabba's palace, and even when he's talking to Vader, his father, in that movie, even the look in his eyes don't scream a pure innocence in him. Like, you see a dark side to him.
Hell, he was going to kill he actually swung his lightsaber to kill the Emperor. Remember in Return of the Jedi, but Vader blocked it. Because remember, the Emperor was goading him on. Like, oh, this is...
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah. I almost forgot about that.
So, it's not... Okay, granted, I'm not saying the Emperor and Ben Solo are comparable, because Emperor is basically space Hitler.
Right.
But the idea that, but he was still technically willing to cut down an unarmed man.
Right,
who wasn't attacking him directly.
So, I guess me and Hawkflame, we're in general agreement that Luke is he's not like one of the traditional ancient Jedi that were trying to be of pure innocence.
So he thought about it for like a second or two, and I think that Ben Solo saw that and leapt to his own conclusion.
Which is pretty much how it happened as we saw it unfold on screen, but
because I think maybe what people are going to be confused by, because you do see Ben Solo's reenactment or interpretation of the scene where you see Luke actually come down.
That could be it. Yeah, that could.
Well,
be
no, that's just in his head.
That's just So
That's what he saw.
yeah. So yeah, fans. Hardcore fans of Star Wars. I think for those of you who have this opinion of the handling of Luke Skywalker, me and Hawkflame, we just think you need to calm down. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, and a lot of this boils down to it. Like, it feels like a lot of some of the complaints kind of boil down to, well, this movie ruined my headcanon. This movie, it's not judging on whether or not this works as a film.
So you mean people are concerned that is this ruining the entire canon of Star Wars?
No, my head canon means like the canon I built up in my head.
Oh, well, see, that's the problem that people that's their problem that they've created for themselves, is that they cannot separate they still haven't managed to separate their own imagination and their own headcanon of these franchises that they love and are obsessed with someone else who's coming to the table with their own vision to add to the story. They can't just see it and try to understand it, comprehend what this person's vision is. So to me, I think a lot of this hate and outcry for The Last Jedi is more so people kind of misunderstanding or being confused with Rian Johnson's overall vision.
Mm-hmm. And tying into sort of that misunderstanding and sort of the misplaced expectations, I would say.
Yes, that's another good way of saying it.
There's other two. The next two, the ones that we got to talk about, are the treatment of Snoke, and also the treatment of Rey's backstory. So which one you want to handle first?
Let's talk about Snoke first.
I kind of get where they're coming from, because they did build up Snoke to be something interesting, something mysterious, and so I really wanted to see what was the story behind that. I want to see more about who he was, and then of course, this is a spoiler section, so I'm gonna say it. It's Kylo Ren just kills him halfway through the movie.
Yeah, which fans didn't. For those who have this headcanon and expectations, who had these expectations locked in their head, did not expect that at all. They were expecting to see Snoke be something so much more than what he ended up being in the movie, which is essentially the director's way of saying he was expendable. Mm-hmm. So
he was basically a red herring in a sense. He was not the real villain.
Exactly. So I feel that if they wanted to do this in a more in a cleaner manner, the way they could have handled it is the disappointment here I could see is because J.J. Abrams did set up Snoke to be a mystery, a big mystery in Force Awakens, and then one that was not actually paid off in The Last Jedi. But this was Rian Johnson's way of saying that he was trying to basically tell everyone, all your expectations is going to be flipped on your own head. So, and that's pretty much what he did. He delivered on that promise. Now, I think the only way that could have been handled to make this a cleaner bridge was he could have maybe given us at least one piece of information about Snoke that would have adhered to what J.J. Abrams was setting up in the first movie, but he didn't even do that. So there you go.
The ironic thing, though, this is actually kind of a J.J. Abrams move, because if you ever watched the show Lost, he was actually supposed to kill off the main character, Jack, played by Matthew Fox in the middle of the first episode after setting up as the main character. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So it's actually kind of a J.J. Abrams move to do this.
So then, in other words, it actually wasn't so far from what J.J. would have ended up doing anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought
Either way, I really don't think that Snoke would have ended up being this large integral villain the way people imagined.
and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he comes back in some way or another.
He's probably going to be at least mentioned to some capacity in Episode 9. I don't think he's going to be given a pivotal role because he's dead.
Like, well, didn't Darth Maul come back in like Rebels or Clone Wars or something like that?
Yeah, he came back. He did come back in Clone Wars, and then he came back again in Rebels. But see, that's different because those are TV animations. So.
Yeah, but how did they do that? Yeah, but it's still part of the canon now, though. So how did it happen?
It is part. Yeah, so it is part of the canon, but the bigger point being is that they did that for the expanded universe. Darth Maul was not so important that they had to revitalize him. I'm
just saying if there's. I'm just wondering if there's a possible way of them actually physically bringing him back.
I mean, I didn't see how they brought him back in Clone Wars, but I did see him come back in Rebels, and I thought it was awesome.
Okay, so
that's going off on its own tangent.
So I was wondering, but and then the issue of, but like I said, it was kind of I think it was an interesting trick that they played on there. You know, like I wanted to see what happened with Snoke, but you know, I gotta respect the director for at least being ballsy enough to do this.
Yeah, so bye Snoke. Suck it up, fans.
And
sorry.
Next one is another one I do.
Let's address Rey's parents.
That's what I'm gonna go do. Okay. So Rey's parents. So that's another thing with the expectations is that everyone was expecting some kind of crazy backstory, some kind of crazy connection to someone else, like either Luke or Leia or Palpatine or the Force itself. Like
I heard Palpatine too. Yeah.
And it turned out to be just no one, and like
no one critical. Like the two.
Just two random people.
The two, people who are parents, just random people.
I get why people are pissed off about this, but at the same time, I kind of find it an entertaining move, and especially if you find out the reasoning why he did this, and found out the director told why he chose to make them just two unimportant people, is that anything else, there have been so many theories, so many people thinking about who it could be, that nothing else, you cannot replicate the impact of I am your father. The only way to do that is to basically say, no, none of your theories are correct, they're just random people.
It makes sense.
And also, but it's not just like it's also cool not just from like a trolling perspective, but just the idea of that. So like you don't have to be a part of a special lineage to be someone important.
Mm.
They could just come out of nowhere. Like not all Force users, not all people who I bet not even all the greatest Force users ever were just born out of nowhere. They had parents,
Absolutely, I think that's definitely a big point that seems to be being drawn across from Lucasfilm right now with all these Star Wars movies, or at least in these Skywalker saga movies. Is anyone can be a Force user. You don't have to be someone particular.
It doesn't have to be like, not that anyone could be a Force user, but to be born with that ability, you don't have to be part of a lineage.
Yeah.
So her parents, she was born from Muggles, basically, which is, I think that's fine.
I don't have an issue with it.
I get why people are sort of let down because again, it's about expectations, and kind of part of me was at first too, but then I think, I was thinking about, do I really care? Do I really care? Like,
at the end of the day, the worst thing it's doing to you or to anyone else really is it's just not meeting a hope that you had built up for yourself for spending however long you did, 2 years or less, on spending time on all these theories revved up on the internet. And and we apologize for if you're one of those people that went through that, but at the end of the day, this is a movie being made, being worked on very hard by a team of professionals who are coming up with decisions that they feel make sense for the story, not for what makes sense for your headcanon or for whatever internet theory that you read about. So you need to those people that are being overly critical, you need to realize that you are not looking at this from the perspective of what a writer is going through.
Mm-hmm. And even more so than even this is even less excuse about the headcanon expectation thing than the Luke issue, because of the fact that there is no because this is literally they said nothing directly about her parents other than a quick line of their brief flashback in the Force Awakens. There's nothing you knew about her family. There's no reason you had any. The episode 7 gave you no reason to have any expectations about her parent if you watch the film itself.
People were blowing out of proportion even now with the spaceship that flew away in the sky. They're questioning who was on that ship, and it's okay,
anyone could have been on that ship.
Is it obvious by now it was their parents, and their parents were no one special, and people are still speculating, no, there had to be someone important on that ship.
It would have been cool if it was.
It would have been interesting, but again, this is playing up too much to your expectations.
This is literally just expectations, because it's not because at least people make the argument that the changes with Luke that violate previously established characters. This isn't a violation of nothing that was established at all.
Yeah. So let's get to the next the next big elephant in the room that people have.
Another big one was I think that one that you acknowledged before that might have been an issue was that the casino scene was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, we don't really need to spend time on that. That we already went over it a bit in the non-spoiler section. We don't have to spend more time on it.
That's another.
I got one though. How about the Leia force flying?
That's a mini one, because it's I don't know why people are that hung up on that, because I thought it was stupid.
I think it's ridiculous that people are complaining about it. I thought it was a wonderful moment in the movie personally.
And I disagree. I thought it was a stupid moment, but you know what? I don't really care, because it was a minute or whatever. It didn't change anything really.
Okay, I think it was a great moment. I mean, I thought it was a moving moment because it actually finally showed us how Leia has somehow advanced forward in the abilities of using the Force. I think this was very critical for the Leia character to show that she has actually grown with the Force and that she's actually aged some time since the original.
By the way,
trilogy.
it's been 30 years between the original trilogy and now, and any of the expanded universe that basically, and all of the canon expanded universe, there's been very little of it so far. As far as the new canon goes. There is still a lot of unexplored stuff in those 30 years. Who's to say that she didn't do a little bit of Force training?
Yeah. I think I heard somewhere that in those 30 years, Luke did actually impart some knowledge, a little more knowledge than than whatever we would know in between that time. So
I thought mainly my issue is that it looked kind of stupid and obviously fake. But again, it's not like she's flying on she's in zero G anyway.
I mean, I guess I could kind of get that people might have looked at it as too much of a Guardians of the Galaxy moment with
people call it Mary Poppins, a Mary Poppins moment,
or that she's now a witch. No, but I was gonna say, what's his name? Star-Lord, who flew in a jetpack or something in space, and was that in the first movie or the second one?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but it was one of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies that he did that. So I could kind of see how it could be compared to that a little. But, at the same time, the fact that I'm seeing it's Leia, for crying out loud. It's General who was formerly Princess Leia, who's doing that in space and doing it through the through the Force and not through like a jetpack or any kind of device. Like, you know, to me that is just like mind blowing, and it's showing that something with the character has changed in these 30 years. You know, people can't understand this.
And I thought mainly I thought the way it was, it looked silly, it looked kind of stupid, and it didn't really need to be there. But people are making such a big deal out of it. Like that scene in the long run left no impact on the movie.
You know what? The same could be argued for. I even hear people complaining that the cameo of Yoda was not even necessary in the movie, and I thought that was great too. That the fact that they put Yoda, because I thought the Yoda
was hilarious, and it was also literally. Did you notice the joke that he made? Like about, because remember the Jedi temple burned down, and it's like everything. You know, it's everything is, you know, everything. All that they need is with Rey or whatever. And it's like, that's all we need is with her. Like she's the only one that matters, kind of thing. Like everything, she's the legacy of all of this.
Yeah.
No, literally, all of the books were with her.
Yeah, that's right.
So I thought that was like, no, literally the important stuff that was in there is actually with her.
I mean, I know a lot. I know that the Yoda scene is not as complained about. Like, a lot of people do like that scene, but there are even still some people who have taken issue with it, that it was somehow out of place with the movie and wasn't necessary. I mean, I counter that, saying no, there was a. I did see a point to it, because it was Yoda coming out to Jedi Master Luke and kind of and knocking back some sense into him.
I like that.
He needed that nudge.
And I feel like if there's any character that you need to bring back, you know, because from the original trilogy, I think you need to see Yoda again. And because especially since he wasn't, you know, he wasn't in the Force Awakens, but I like seeing him again. I like seeing him knock some sense into Luke, literally. And so I think another one that another point that people have brought up a number of times that they don't like is they don't like the humor. They don't like the quote-unquote Marvel style humor.
Yeah, a lot of stuff with what's his name, like General Hux, and
also with Luke. There's some stuff with Luke like that were the moments that are kind of I'm trying to remember the exact moment, but there was a moment with Luke that was kind of that kind of undercuts some. That I think some people say undercuts some of the drama of the scene on the island.
I mean, I personally, I can't even remember these moments. I mean, I would remember if I see it again, but I just can't think of it right now.
Because I thought of it, because I'm trying to remember the exact scene. It was obviously with Rey.
There was in the beginning when he took back his old lightsaber from her, and then he just threw it over his shoulders. That was one moment that some people did complain about.
And I thought it was a perfect sort of example of what if you ever want to one scene to sort of perfectly capture what the director was trying to accomplish in this movie, just that shot, just that scene of Luke throwing away the lightsaber.
Yeah.
But there are other scenes where I wish I was better armed as far as the specific details, where there were some jokes there was some humor from Luke that sort of undercut the drama. I think that was a bit of a complaint, and that's not something I like the joke. I laughed at it, but now hearing that perspective, I could see it, because that did bother me in other movies, and that did, particularly in Thor Ragnarok.
Well, unfortunately, we're gonna have to actually start to wrap this up, because this is getting a little long. And
we're both very tired. But I think we wrapped up the major points of discussion that people usually talk about with the movie, right?
Yeah, there are some things. I think there are just little things that we left out, but that's also because there's so much that went on that went on in this movie, and both of us still need to see it a second time. To get even more thoughts into the whole thing, but both of us were both pretty happy with what we saw.
I would say I appreciated it more than I enjoyed it. Like I so appreciate what the director was trying to do. I did enjoy. I was never bored. I did enjoy it, but I think my sort of appreciation for what the director was trying to accomplish was sort of bigger than that.
Yeah. I mean, one other thing, one of the last things I wanted to mention in closing, tied to Star Wars: The Last Jedi and Star Wars in general right now is as me and Hawkflame, we were talking earlier before this recording, and we both actually noticed something. It seems it's something that both of us seem to have been thinking about both recently, coincidentally, is that Star Wars does seem to be catering a lot to female audiences a lot more now too. So I think that is one of the subliminal things that these new Star Wars movies is kind of pushing forward. And I guess you could say some subtle ways and then some not so subtle ways, really, like putting a female as the lead character is not so subtle. But then there are other like thematic elements that I think that people are overlooking right now. If you really pay attention it's done a little bit in Force Awakens, not enough, but more so in The Last Jedi. Really pay attention to some of these thematic elements. I'll give you a hint. At least one or two scenes between Poe Dameron and that new
The new general played by Laura Dern.
Yeah, that new like admiral, whatever her position was or whatever her rank was. There's definitely some hints that they're championing women's rights and more progressiveness in these Star Wars movies with things like that. And it doesn't seem like everyone is catching onto it so soon. It seems that more discussion and more, I'm sure, essays will be written about it in the future.
And I don't mind it, because it's not like, first of all, there have always been women in leadership, even if we don't feature them prominently in the movies. There have been women in leadership positions in the rebellion, like Return of the Jedi had Leia and Mon Mothma, So she's basically like the new Mon Mothma in a sense. So that's not a problem. So I don't think it is. I have no problem with it as long as it tells a good story,
Yeah, the original trilogy, like just kind of glanced over this idea of women in leadership type positions and giving women more rights. But again, it was just like scraped over. The new trilogy is enhancing it much more.
But it's also not at the expense of male characters necessarily, because Poe Dameron is so awesome. He's like, to me, he was the most. Even though I thought that the Kylo Ren and Rey were the most interesting characters, he was the most fun character in this one. I thought. So I enjoyed when he was on screen.
Yeah. So at the same time, it's not stealing the thunder from our awesome male characters like Poe or Finn.
And it's not like Rogue One. Rogue One is loaded with amazing male characters. So it's so it's not like they were losing in that end because they had one female lead.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought. So I don't. So I don't think it's. It's not just people think they had some kind of social justice warrior agenda with this, but I don't care if it's interesting, and if I like the characters, and if they want to have more gender balance while doing that, that's fine.
I mean, I think it's a stretch that they're saying, it's a social justice warrior agenda that is being put in this movie in particular. I mean, even if it is, which I really doubt, I truly doubt Rian Johnson and any of the people behind him at Lucasfilm, like Kathleen Kennedy, have a secret social justice warrior agenda behind them.
They have a money-making agenda behind them. That's what it is.
It's a Disney money-making agenda.
And it's like, okay, you could get more money by selling to toys of boys and girls.
I think that they're more so worried about making a compelling story that is going to make a profit. And, Rian Johnson, just to harken back to one example Hawkflame brought up earlier was the whole he cannot replicate the effect of I Am Your Father from Empire Strikes Back. So, from the position of a writer, you need to consider, what does he need to do to come up with that same effect? At this point, in this day and age, it has to be make the parents no one. So these are some of the things that I would like people to consider more of the challenges that these writers and directors, what they're being given when being given like huge franchise movies like Star Wars, and not even just Star Wars. There's a couple of them right now, like the Marvel movies. The challenges that they have in writing movies like that too.
Because that's the thing. They have a very interesting plan. Because one thing I need to wrap up. I want to mention really quickly because you're talking about the challenges. Is that the expectations of fans is that. What was the complaint about The Force Awakens? It was too much of a ritual of A New Hope. What is the complaint about this one? They're doing things too differently. They're basically they're shitting on canon. They're doing too. They should be more like the original. It should be more like the original films, in a sense.
Yeah, which again, it's like with these kind of complaints from these type of fans.
How do you manage that?
With these kind of complaints, with these type of fans, there's literally, they keep going the way they're going with this kind of mode of thinking. Virtually, there's going to be no Star Wars movie made in this day and age that is going to that's ever going to satisfy them.
I feel like they could. I feel like the only way to satisfy them is just to bring the old expanded universe and make it on screen.
Yeah, I mean that is really what it sounds like. I think that they're saying that Disney and whoever else behind these movies is jaded. I think these fans they're so jaded themselves because they just, like you said, they are more interested in seeing the old EU put on screen, but that was never that was never their plan to begin with.
But even if they did that, you know what they're gonna say? Oh, they're just ripping off the EU.
Yeah, but there you go. Like they'll still end up probably making that sort of complaint in the end. So in the end, I really don't think as long as they continue this mode of thinking, they will never be satisfied.
Now, I'm not talking about all the people who didn't like this film, but there are people who make the same who don't like 7 and 8 for completely diametrically opposed reasons.
Right. That's not to say, speaking for all the fans who disliked it.
Because there are people who liked Episode 7 because it was familiarity, and they don't like Episode 8 because it was unfamiliar. That's consistent, at least.
There's more consistency in that, yeah. Not a lot of the things in Episode 8 paid off the way they wanted to pay off, and then some things just didn't really pay off. But then the point was, like, with Snoke, he was never never a character that was meant to be paid off.
Anyway, we're wrapping up. What? We've been this for like an hour and 15 minutes now, so I think we should...
Something like that, yeah. So, yeah. All right, so yeah, this has been a good episode, guys. We've enjoyed talking about this.
Yep. And, until next time, it's Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, or Happy whatever you want.
And Happy New Year.
And we'll see you.
All right, bye-bye.